So here we are then, it's the summer break for F1 2022 and we have to go through the ordeal of multiple race weekends without a single Grand Prix. And for a Formula 1 fan, that is rather depressing. But it's an opportunity for us to take a little look at the F1 2022 season and see what have been the top 5 races of the year so far. These are just my own personal opinions. If you've got your own different opinions to my top 5, put them in the comment section down below. And without further ado, let's get straight into my top 5 races of F1 2022.
Box, Carlos, box, speed confirmed.
Not now, not now, not now.
Oh, why were they telling him to pit right then?
So coming in at number 5, I have picked the F1 2022 Lenovo French Grand Prix. This was actually a really difficult choice to make, and it was actually a really big toss-up between the French Grand Prix and the Austrian Grand Prix. In fact, on my notepad, literally right next to me, I've actually written Austria in number 5. I've had to go back and re-watch the highlights for the French and the Austrian Grand Prix, just to find out which one I truly enjoyed the most. And initially I put Austria down, but after watching the two races, I just felt like it was a little bit extra, a tiny bit, in the French Grand Prix that gave the edge over the Austrian Grand Prix. So why did I pick France over Austria? Because the two of them were literally identical. Well, starting things off with the Austrian Grand Prix, there was the element of a battle for the lead. We got 3 overtakes for the lead of the Grand Prix between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. The problem with that was that only one of those overtakes for me was a legitimate, fair one-on-one overtake. The other 2 overtakes from Leclerc on Verstappen were just the inevitable ones. You knew they were going to come, Max was never going to be able to defend against them, so it really took the entertainment element out of it. The rest of the race itself, well, we had obviously the incident between Russell and Perez on lap 1. We had the epic 5-car scrap between the likes of, I think it was Norris, Magnussen, Zhou, Alonso and Schumacher. That was awesome. We had the DNF between Carlos Sainz with his engine failure. And of course, we had Leclerc struggling with a throttle problem and that nervy ending to the race. And there was a lot there. And yeah, it was really, really good. But it just missed that little bit that the French Grand Prix did actually have. So what did the French Grand Prix have that the Austrian Grand Prix didn't? Well, again, we had a great battle for the lead between Leclerc and Verstappen. They were going at it for a couple of laps. Not like massive wheel-to-wheel combat, but they were going side by side through Le Beausset. We had Verstappen going on a different strategy to Leclerc. We had the shock of Leclerc crashing out from the lead of the Grand Prix, bringing out the safety car. That obviously nullified the battle for the lead, which definitely dropped points off from that specific Grand Prix. However, for me, it was then the battle between Sainz, Perez and Russell that just made it for me. Sainz working his way up through the field. Obviously, there was plenty of overtakes and action further back. Sainz then battling with Sergio Perez in an epic half-lap scrap in which then Ferrari told Sainz to box during the middle of the fight, which just made no sense whatsoever. And then, of course, Russell versus Perez. I mean, the two of them collided into the chicane. And then Russell getting very quick on the virtual safety car. And obviously, you know, overtaking Perez and making it a double Mercedes podium. There's obviously no bias to why I enjoyed that overtake a lot. Nothing in particular. But yeah, I'm going to go with the French Grand Prix as number 5 on my list.
And will Verstappen now be passed by his teammate Sergio Perez? Yes, he has been. And he's been passed by Hamilton. And he's been passed by Russell.
So coming in at number 4, I have gone with the Bahrain Grand Prix, the season opener for Formula 1. And we managed to kick off F1 2022 in pure style. The front row of Leclerc and Max Verstappen, and the two of them gave us an absolutely brilliant Bahrain Grand Prix, especially after the first stint where I believe Verstappen made the undercut attempt on Charles Leclerc, which got him into DRS range, and automatically we were shown the straight line speed that Red Bull possessed, and it was mad because it just allowed him to just close straight up on Charles Leclerc, and it was a great piece of battling between the two of them. The wheel-to-wheel action that they were giving us was absolutely tremendous, and they were going back and forth. You just knew that Leclerc had the edge over Verstappen, but Verstappen, as we've seen throughout the course of the season really, had the straight line speed advantage and was able to stick there with Charles Leclerc. And that battle really just gave us what we all wanted to see. It was the new era. It was genuinely the new era. Not only did we have the new race cars, but we had the two new championship protagonists. Well, we thought we did until now when Verstappen's 80 points clear. But, you know, flashback a bit of time when we had, you know, it was now Ferrari versus Red Bull. It was Leclerc versus Verstappen, and Leclerc got the better of Verstappen in that affair. And then, of course, we had the VSC come out for Gasly's incident. It was a full safety car, actually, for Gasly's incident. Verstappen had an issue in his pit stop, which I believe bent his steering rod. Sainz gets past him. All of a sudden, Verstappen slows down and is out of the race. Then you've got the two Mercs out of nowhere coming through and trying to attack Perez, but their porpoising was horrible. And then Perez is reporting a loss of power, and then all of a sudden his engine cuts out, locks up the rear tyres into turn 1, and then all of a sudden Hamilton is through and Russell is through. Both Red Bulls are out. Ferrari get a 1-2 finish out of nowhere, really. And then Mercedes managed to get themselves onto the podium. No bias at all to what happened when Sergio Perez spun, and I may have cheered very, very heavily. Yeah, I did. I cheered heavily. Bahrain's number 4.
As they both lock up, Charles Leclerc goes through ahead.
So coming in at number 3, I have gone with the F1 2022 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And I'm just going to put this right out here, and it's a very controversial opinion. If this Formula 1, if you take the two Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and you put that exact landscape of Saudi Arabia and you put it in a completely different country, let's put it into Silverstone. Let's put it as somewhere in the UK, right? A British Grand Prix night race along the seafront, okay? Something like that, right? And you had those two races. I guarantee you not one single person would complain about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix gets so much hate because of the country, and, you know, I'm spot on with, everyone's right with it. You know, the way that they just treat people and the natural human rights is completely wrong. But there's no denying that two things. Number one, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is a fantastic circuit. Number two, we've had two races at the Jeddah Street Circuit, and we've had two absolutely blinding Grand Prix that you just can't deny it. I don't know what makes you probably think otherwise, but that's your own opinion. But I genuinely think that the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is overhated. And what about it? Well, we had a great race. You know, Perez shocking everybody by getting his Red Bull on pole position. That came out of nowhere. Super unlucky with the safety car coming out, which really hampered his progress. And then we just had that fight between Leclerc and Verstappen, round number 2, and it was battle number 2. And the way that they were just trying to cheekily go at each other and just making those clever little moves between each other. That bit in the last corner when they both tried to go for DRS and they both locked up. Even Button was like, yo, that was awesome. Not in that circumstance. I don't think I've ever heard Button say yo in my life. So we'll remove that one from the equation. But they just had a superb battle. In the end, Verstappen got past him, but Leclerc still had the pace in the corners and was still going at him all the way till the checkered flag. And it was an awesome affair between them two. And there was drama further back. I mean, before the VSC, I think it was, came out, which got Verstappen into range of Charles Leclerc. You know, we had Alonso and Ocon. They had a fantastic scrap, the two of them battling really hard against each other. We had then Alonso DNFing with a water pump issue, I think it was. Ricciardo then DNF'd with a random issue of his own. Then Bottas was out of the race. Everyone was just dropping like flies. Hamilton got screwed because he didn't pit under the safety car, but I think he thought the pit lane was closed. But yeah, there was just carnage and there was just chaos. And I absolutely love the Jeddah Street Circuit, and I'm going to put my hands up and say it. I love the street circuit. It's awesome. It's fast. It's flowing. And all this about it's too dangerous. No, it's not. You know, there have been crashes like Schumacher's in qualifying, but hey, it's a high-speed circuit, and these are the best drivers in the world. And we want circuits that that punish the drivers when they make mistakes. And that's exactly what it did. But Verstappen came out victorious in that race. And I'm putting it as number 3 on my list.
All the stories are being written for tomorrow about Ferrari's strategy again. Look at that.
So coming in at number 2, I've gone with the F1 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix. This Grand Prix has gone so high on my list for one big reason. Only one. And that is that 3 teams were fighting at the front of the field for the win. That's the only reason I put it there. It's because we had Mercedes on pole position for the first time with George Russell. The lights go out. And all of a sudden, we've got a Mercedes versus Ferrari theme going on here. Verstappen, Hamilton and Perez, all out of position, managed to make their way up and pretty much get themselves back into the fight. But then we all of a sudden had Russell coming into the pits. He's covering off the two Ferraris. The Ferrari of Sainz pits, he's out behind Russell. And then all of a sudden, Leclerc is coming out of the pits. He's in front of Sainz. Now we've got Mercedes versus Ferrari. It was quite clear that Leclerc was much, much quicker than George Russell. But Russell put up a great defence for the lead of the Grand Prix. But Leclerc put a fantastic move around the outside into turn 1. Now all of a sudden, it is Ferrari just romping clear. But Max Verstappen starts clawing his way back in. He then comes in for a pit stop, trying to undercut both Sainz and Russell. They both tried to respond to it, and they both, well, not both of them, Russell responded, and he failed. But for some reason then, Leclerc came in for the hard compound tyres. Why he's done that, I have no idea even to this day, and I know Ferrari fans are fuming about that one. And then all of a sudden we've gone from Mercedes versus Ferrari to Red Bull versus Ferrari, because Verstappen is going through. He passes Leclerc for what would technically be the net race lead. Then we've got a spin for Verstappen, and then it's another fight between the two of them for the net race lead. Of course, Russell nearly got past Verstappen when he spun. He got past Perez, but didn't get past Verstappen. So he passes him. And then Sainz and Hamilton pit for the soft tyres, and then Hamilton just turns on the little hammer time button that's on his steering wheel, and then he just goes for it. And even before that, it's Mercedes versus Ferrari again, because Russell now passes Leclerc, who's struggling on his hards. Hamilton comes through almost 10 seconds back on soft tyres compared to Sainz. Passes Russell. It's a double podium for Mercedes, but it was 3 teams going at it. And you just did, at different points in the race, each team looked like they were going to win. That was the best thing about it. We had Russell in the lead after the first pit stops, still in the lead. Looks like that he may be able to hold on because it's a hard track to overtake. Leclerc shows that you can pass around here and follow with the new regulations. It looks like Ferrari's winning because he's romping clear. Verstappen then does the undercut, and then Ferrari throw it away by going onto the hard tyres. Now all of a sudden Verstappen's in the lead, and then he's going through and winning. Hamilton then just comes out of nowhere with his soft tyres, and you think, wait, can Hamilton catch and pass all of them and get to Verstappen? And then the rain's coming down, and obviously Verstappen though wins in the end. But I think we can, I agree with myself anyway, that was an awesome race. And hopefully for the second half of the season now, we'll see more epic battles from the top 3 teams.
Perez goes off the track, cuts the chicane, off goes Leclerc, through goes Hamilton! Unbelievable!
And coming in at number 1, I've got to go with the British Grand Prix. I absolutely loved the F1 2022 British Grand Prix. So far, it's the best race of the season. And again, it was a complete case of 3 teams fighting at the front. That's the word I was trying to get out of my mouth. We start things off, obviously we had the horror crash for Guan Yu Zhou. So glad that he came out of that okay. And then we had obviously the second start though. And we had Sainz really heavily defending against Verstappen, just on the limit. Leclerc and Perez nearly wiping out Verstappen in all of that. And then all of a sudden we see ourselves, Perez has been removed from the picture. So he's got front wing damage, he's out of the picture. So now it's Ferraris versus Verstappen, and you think that's how the race is going to go. Hamilton has lost a bit of time because he dropped behind Norris and the Mercs were struggling to warm up the tyres straight away compared to obviously the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. So then all of a sudden we see Verstappen passing Sainz. Sainz makes a mistake and you think, okay, well, we're screwed here because we're in trouble. Verstappen's much quicker. Leclerc's got damage. This might be a problem. All of a sudden, then Verstappen gets damaged. And what we thought was a puncture turned out to be a massive piece of AlphaTauri friendly fire in Verstappen's bodywork, causing him to have a significant loss of downforce. So, Verstappen's got a puncture and he's out of the way. So, there's your problem. All of a sudden, you're thinking to yourselves now, well, this is a Ferrari 1-2. And no one's really going to be challenging them. But slowly but surely did the tension within Ferrari start to just build a bit of entertainment, I personally felt, when Sainz and Leclerc were just racing each other. And Sainz was very aggressive in a good way, but standing his ground, having some authority and going, no. If Leclerc wants to pass me, he can come past me. It doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, the mood starts to change because Hamilton is bit by bit by bit catching the 2 Ferraris. And of course, He then does a mega first stint, should we say, actually, to get a big offset on the two Ferraris. And again, you saw it. It was like, you know, Leclerc was stuck behind Sainz, and it was like, we need to swap positions here because Hamilton's catching. And of course, Hamilton pits for the hard tyres and does have then a massive difference of tyre life. But unfortunately, we weren't able to see that because the safety car comes out for Ocon DNFing, and then we get one of the best endings to a Grand Prix that I can remember, when we've got Sainz going at Charles Leclerc. And I just want to put this out here, massive credit to Carlos Sainz, because A, he pitted and Leclerc for some reason didn't. I don't know what Ferrari are doing again, but B, you know, when they were telling him, look, keep 10 car lengths back to Charles Leclerc, give Leclerc some space, Sainz is like, well, no, hang on a second. Stop thinking about your golden boy here. Think about the team. If I stay 10 car lengths back, I've got Hamilton and Perez right behind me. I'm in trouble here, as much as Leclerc is. He gets past Leclerc quickly and easily. Perez gets past Lewis Hamilton, and then we see the fight. Perez versus Leclerc versus Hamilton. And that moment when Crofty goes through, goes Hamilton. I don't care that I'm a Hamilton and Merc fan. It is what it is. Each one of you watching this video are a different type of fan of a team and a driver. That is like a goosebumps type moment. It was like when Raikkonen got past Hamilton in Monza, and he literally just screams, and Monza goes wild. It's just one of those key commentary moments that just lives with you whenever you can hear it. And that battle was awesome. And then Perez comes back on Hamilton. Hamilton loses to Leclerc. Leclerc and Hamilton go side by side through Copse. Leclerc, with probably, my opinion, the overtake of the season, around the outside of Hamilton with a broken front wing on hard tyres versus Hamilton on fresh soft tyres around the outside of Copse. That's overtake of the season for me. And then Hamilton passes him. Leclerc's still trying to defend. Verstappen's defending from Mick Schumacher in all of this. And Sainz gets his first win in Formula 1. For me, the standout race of the season. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, the British Grand Prix is, for me, the best race of the season. But that is my top 5 races for F1 2022. What are yours, though? Have you got the same top 5 races as me? Or are your top 5 races different or similar, just flipped around in different orders? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, subscribe if you're new to it as well. I'll see you guys next time. Take care all. Peace.